So if you're already on the call, I guess you could do *65, and then that'll help you with the audio. And I'm not going to mute everybody because sometimes I find that confusing. So what you can do is, I don't hear any feedback, but if you could put yourself on mute, that way if you have people who walk in and start talking to you, then it won't be, we won't hear the conversation that's going on. Okay, so I'm going to get started, and what we're going to talk through today, our purpose for today is to go through the reimbursement process that we're going to do for the innovation zones for our subcontracts. And so first I want to just say to everybody that I appreciate your patience as we're working this out. We haven't done the subcontract process before, and we're getting information as we go kind of internally. But what I've done is I've walked through and validated and verified that this is the right information and process for each of us so that we can get our information put through right away, okay? Because we don't want anybody to have to wait, and we want everybody to get the reimbursement that they need in a timely manner. And I know you guys will appreciate that as well. So for the most part, anybody who has a contract, it should be dated going back to October 1st. So that was a contract that we had signed. And any expenses that you submit would be from October through, we would say through the end of March, since we're just starting the beginning of April. And what I want you to think about is doing a month-to-month. So instead of doing a block reimbursement, I would suggest that you do October, if you haven't already, so do October, November, December, January, February, March. So one each for each month, and that's going to make your life easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and show my screen for a couple of different things. So I want to show you kind of the overview and talk a little bit about what those program expenses are, what's allowable expenses, what's not allowable, so that we're all on the same page. And then I'll show you the forms that we have, walk through those, and then if you have any questions about those forms, again, you can feel free to jump in at any time just to answer the questions that you have. So this right here, the slide that I have here is about the budget reimbursement form, and I'm going to show you that one. That's the one that looks like this form. Okay, so that's our, has the project budget right there at the top, and then there's different columns here for, let's see, this little arrow thing. So we have personnel services right here. There's something called consumables, occupancy, miscellaneous, and then other. And there's a column, so there's column B, which is this one right here. And let's see, I'm gonna kind of highlight that. Column B is right there, column C, column D, column E. Column B is your project budget. So if you haven't already put in the actual budget that you submitted to me using these lines, I would suggest that you do that. Your actual monthly expenditures, so what we'll talk through is that for column C, those need to be actual monthly expenditures, what your budget actually spent. So what we don't want to do is have you take the amount that was approved for your budget and divide that by 12, because that's not going to tell us what you actually spent in a given month. There might be some expenses that are going to be the same month to month. Your salaries might be the same month to month. Your M&G, your indirect, might be the same month to month if you have that as an expense. But you might have different expenses throughout. Column D is going to calculate. It's going to add up, so it's going to be what's in column C. And then column E is your balance. So what column E does, when I press F2, that's going to show me the formula that's in there. And I'm going to do the little highlighter thing. So that's going to show us this whole section right here. So that would be B14 minus D14, and then that's going to get us our balance right there. Okay, you see that? All right, erase all drawings, and then I'm going to go back to my presentation here. All right, so that's our steps to complete that form right there, would be that you fill in the actual budget for column B. You do the actual expenditures that you spent in column C. Column D is those total expenditures, your year to date, and column E is that balance, so that's B minus D. And then you use the tab to complete. Okay, so that's that picture right there. Show you that one more time. What I want to show you down at the bottom is we have these different tabs that help you fill the stuff in. And this one that I have here is just a sample. This is a made-up one with made-up numbers. So this would be the total budget. Down here we have a personnel services tab, and I'm going to do my little highlighter thing again. So here's personal services detail. And what I did is I put in the name of a person, so last name, first name, a title. The percentage that's going to be allocated to the Innovation Zone project, so we'll say 50% of this time. I actually use my sister's name here, so we'll say my sister Rachel. She's going to be working half-time, and then the other half of her work is going to be dedicated doing work for the other projects. So she works at a children's hospital. So these are her total salary. So we'll say that Rachel makes $37,500 annually for all of her work that she does. For this project, it's going to be 50%. Okay, so I'm going to do F2 again. Okay, so let me see here. And that's going to show me that I took D, or column G here, so I took her total salary. Actually, let me do this guy right here. Okay, and then I multiplied it by the percentage allocation, and then that's going to tell me how much of her salary would be then dedicated to this project here. Okay, and then that number is right there. And then what I did, and then this isn't, I'm not sure if I did this for everyone's form, so let me know if you want me to update your form for you, but you can do a calculation so that what I have here, again, I'm going to hit the number F2, so I want you to remember F2 is a magic helpful button when you're trying to figure out what's a formula that's inside of a cell for your spreadsheet. So F2 is going to tell me that personnel services detail, that's the tab number, and then we have a little exclamation point, so then it's going to be H12. So now I'm going to look over here, personnel services detail. I'm going to go to column H, line 12, and that's going to be the same number. Okay, so what I did is I just go here, I hit equal, and then I go over here, I put my little cursor on top of that one, and then I'm going to do enter. And actually it should be 24, not 12, okay, to make sure that it's the total number. So just in case I had other people that were there, so say I had my brother John, okay, John, he's going to be an assistant director, and he's going to be 0.25% of his time. We're going to pay John, I'm going to pay him less than Rachel because she's older. Okay, and then I'm going to do equals. I'm going to click on that column, multiply, times 25. Okay, and then you see how this one right here, this value here changed. Now I'm going to look over here and look, that adjusted as well. Okay, so we want to make sure that that all matches up. Now the taxes that we have in here, so the values that we have here match what Illinois Action for Children uses. So if you have a different number, you want to check with your accounting department and make sure that you have the right values here. So right now we have this as multiplied by 7.6%. Okay, so that's what that is, and then this is also a value that is for workers' compensation, and then we add these two guys up, and then that gets our payroll taxes, so that's the FICA, and then workers' compensation. Now if we had employee health and retirement in there, then that would be something that we would put in there on line 26 right here. But we don't, so we leave that blank. And then that adds that one up. And then if we go back over to our budget, we can see that that's the same number that's right here. Again, same thing, so it's H31, H31. All right, now my other brother, Jesse, he is going to be the parent liaison for the school district, and Jesse's going to make a contract of $25,000 just to be able to be the parent liaison for the school district. Now he's right there under contract role. Okay, so that's the same thing. So I have that matching up so that Jesse, so now it's just going to populate my budget to make it a lot easier for me to track the expenses for my budget. All right, the rest of these numbers that we have here for supplies, postage, now that's just my best guesstimate, okay, based on spending that I've done year after year, that when I do innovation zones, I need $2,500 for supplies. Maybe I need $1,000 for postage and shipping. I'm going to guesstimate that I need $402 for my telephone. That could be a cell phone reimbursement. That could be the line in your office. Staff travel, we're going to just make a number. It's $1,000 for travel expenses, and then for conferences and meetings, $550. All right, so those are all just put in there, and then we're going to walk through how you actually put the actual numbers in there in a different form. All right, and then indirect, so I want to walk through the indirect tab here, so that's down at the bottom. I'm going to put the little highlighter on again so that you can see I'm on indirect. So what I did here is that before I added up, so what you can do is you can just highlight all these guys here, and then if you look over here, you're going to get a sum. Okay, so that's going to add up to $57,462, and actually what I need to do, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to, I'm going to go equals, let me start that over, equals sum, okay, so that way I know that it's going to be doing addition, and I'm going to add up everything except for the indirect, and I'm going to hit enter, okay, and then this number here, is going to be multiplied by 15%. Okay, so your indirect is not to exceed 15% per DHS. So if you are doing indirect as an expense, so not everybody is doing this, but I just want to sort of give the overview for everybody. Each budget looks a little bit different, so I just want to let you know that this is what it looks like if you have an indirect expense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that total number, everything but indirect, I added it all up and I put it right here. I multiplied that by 15%. Okay, and then I take that number and I put it in here. That's my indirect, and then you get roughly this amount of money. So it's about a 13%. It ends up being between 13 and 50%, which will match up with what DHS will approve. Okay, so that's that right there. Let me see if I have any questions. Okay, so I don't want to go through anything too quickly, so let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so basically, again, just to wrap it up, so you put your project budget in there, and that's your first step of what you want to do. Okay, now we have this expenditure form, and what our expenditure form is going to do is it's going to actually help us show what we spent each month for these different fields to make sure that if there was an audit, both of your program or an audit for Illinois Action for Children, that we would have documentation and record of the way that we spent the money for our budget. So again, that's personal services. We have consumables, occupancy, miscellaneous, and others. So we have one tab for each section on our expenditure form, which looks a little bit like this. And then again, I'm going to show you, and we're going to walk through that. Okay, so in expenditure report, we have different tabs. So there's a tab at the bottom. So we have one for personnel, consumables, occupancy, miscellaneous, and other. Okay, and then again, it's going to look just like this. So personal services, consumables, occupancy, miscellaneous, and other. So we're really making it easy. We're doing our best to help make it match up for you so that it's really easy to understand. What I've done here on each tab is I've also highlighted that section. So letter A is going to be highlighted in yellow. That's going to be personal services, and that's also going to be personal services here. And then when I get to, let me change my little pen here. Let's see, back to normal. Okay, so consumables, that's going to be highlighted here. Occupancy, that's highlighted here. Miscellaneous, just to make it easy for you to find so that you always know that you're on the right page, so it's not confusing. Okay, and then as I did before, what I did is I filled in information just with samples. So when you get this form, you want to make sure that you adjust your summation at the very bottom here to not include the gray line. So that would be line 18 for any of these, okay, because that includes the sample. So line 18 is going to include your sample, so you want to make sure that you adjust your formula so you could just, again, hit F2. It lit up in nice in a blue color, and then I could actually move that. When I hit enter, it's no longer going to include line 18. So where there's a formula, remember, check it with F2. Okay, F2 is going to be your friend. If I want to get out of F2, I can hit escape. F2, escape, F2, escape. That's going to help me get in and out of that field. All right, so what I did here is I have a date. So this is going to be my date that I'm going to do for January. We have Rachel Marie Cunningham, who is my staff person for the project. And what I have is that Rachel is making 37.5 divided by 26 pay periods. Okay, so in this case, I did it this way just to make it easier for our calculations. But what you would do is you would put in the actual amount that that employee has been paid for that payroll period, okay, based on the records that you have from your payroll summary report. So I did it this way just for purposes of our demonstration. Okay, I'm going to include the check number that she was paid with. So if we're using ADP as a system, the check number just for record keeping is going to be check number, we're saying 2131. Now we remember that Rachel is being paid 50% of her full-time salary, 50% of her time, full-time equivalent to the program. So what I have here is I put a formula in. So it might vary per your program. So someone might be 75% to a program, someone might be 67, or they might be 100% to the program. So either way, I'm going to have a calculation here, and so I'm calculating her wages for that pay period times 50%, and then I'm getting a value here, so that's the amount of her gross pay that's billable to the program, billable for innovation zones. Okay, now if I wanted to do that again, so now, okay, Rachel, we'll say that next week. Okay, she's going to get money. Okay, but and then you see how down at the bottom here that changed, right? So this right here where it says salary, what I tried to do here, just to, again, to make it really easy for you to understand, is that I put this in the nice rose color. So that's the salary line. In your green color, that's going to be your payroll taxes line. And then in this blue color could be your other. So just in case, I just used it as an example. I don't know that anybody's doing health insurance or retirement billable to the program, but just in case you are, this is where it would calculate, and then this is where it would add up. Okay, so again, just to use the example where, so now I'm going to do, she gets paid 2 times a month. I'm going to copy, and I'm just going to paste that there. But what I would want to do is put her actual wages in there. Remember that. So you want to do actual expenditures. So for our demonstration, I'm just showing, I'm just copying and pasting. Sometimes, as we said, salaries may be the same month to month, but there could be variation because of, you know, whether it's dental, there's different reasons why it could be different. So make sure that you're using actual amounts. Okay, and then that'll calculate here. And then what I'm going to do, now I haven't gotten sophisticated enough to be able to link this over to this field. That would be nice, but what I would just do is have you print these out, and then you would just type it in. Okay, so I want to show you that what I did here. So if we go back to our approved budget, what I have here for the actual monthly expenditures is $721.15. $721.15. See how it's the same? The $55.17, $55.17, and then $300 for those other benefits, and that's right here. All right. All right, so I have a couple questions here. So I will send, at the end of the call, what I'm going to do is resend all these forms around just so that we're all on the same page, so that everybody has the exact same form, and it's nice and easy for everybody to get everything on the same date at the same time. And then if your checks do not have numbers on them because of direct deposit, then that's okay. Okay, so then you could just put a note there that you could do DD for direct deposit. Okay, so the billable amount for workers' comp, so I'm going to show you back on our personal services detail. So that is on line 28 for workers' compensation, and that would be calculated there. So it would come in on your payroll taxes and other benefits. So when you calculate workers' compensation, that comes in with payroll taxes on line 15 here. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so payroll taxes, which I just realized has an extra L. Okay, so that's the FICA. Oh, I see what you're saying. So then what I need to do is add another column. I think that's what Darnell just noticed that. So we'll put the workers' compensation here. Yeah, okay, so I need to add the percent there. And then you would add the percent based on what you guys typically do. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that all matches up. Does that answer the question? I just want to make sure we're good. Okay. So going back to the expenditure report, so then what you would do and what you would submit to our team would be the copies of this stuff. So the copy of your payroll summary report that would show this information. And a good tip would be to highlight it so that it's easy to see. And what you want to do is not the full amount. So keep in mind that there's a percentage that's being allocated to this project. Okay, so this is the full amount here. What you want to do is the amount that's billable to the program. So we're going to ask you to do that calculation, so that would be the 50%. So if your 50% of your wages go to the project, then that's what we want to see on your documentation, because that's what you're going to be submitting for. That's what we're going to be reimbursing you for, actual expenses. Okay. Now I'm going to look at consumables. Okay, so likewise, consumables could be paper products, and I actually will walk through some slides, and you can have this as documentation so that you have this record for yourself to keep. So as a checklist of what is counted as a consumable, so different program supplies, printing and postage, shipping, that kind of thing. So in our case, we are saying that we spent $150, and in this case, a check was used, or the last 4 digits of a credit card was used, and that number is $150, and so I put that right here, $150. Occupancy, so this includes the telephone bill, so I have Very Sprinty as my telephone service, so for $25, I'm going to put that under the telephone expenses right here, Very Sprinty. And For miscellaneous, so this would be travel using my personal car from the office to 160 North LaSalle for a meeting at 2 miles. So this is the travel report that you can use. So we already have the value calculated in here. At the IRS, reimbursable amount per mile is 0.54. Okay, and maybe I'll just write that in there just so that everybody knows, just in case, because sometimes we accidentally delete things and then you don't have to try to remember what the IRS form is, but if you actually go to the IRS website, they'll tell you that as well. Okay, and then the last one would be other. So if we did Visa gift cards for a parent outreach incentive, I would have the receipt from Target and showing that I spent a total of $25 on those gift cards for the parent outreach event, and then I would put that on here. Okay. And then my indirect, to go back to our conversation from before, so the indirect is going to be divided by 6. So this is one where the documentation is tricky, so we're just going to have you take whatever indirect that you have allocated in your budget, so that's this number here, and then divide that by the 6 months of the project. And then that'll give you a total number here. So again, I'm going to hit F2. I'm going to show you what it does, so it's going to sum this entire column. And then this number here is what you would be reimbursed for the month of January. Right? So I'm going to have my agency name would be, you know, Awesome Community Project, Community, and include all this stuff. Make sure that you fill this thing out completely. Okay, state fiscal year, and then for our month. So we'll want to put the month of the project up here. Okay, so we want the month of January. January 2015. Or actually, what year is it? 2016. Oops. All right, let's see. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's how that goes. And then what this does again is that we're going to take takes the year to date. So then everything that I entered in column C is now in column D, and then E calculated. And so then this is how much money I have to spend. This is my balance. So then next month, then we would do the same thing. And then what you would do is save a new report month to month, and you would want to do an updating. So some of our projects that we have, and again, I didn't get sophisticated enough for this one. If you want, I can pull this out all the way for October, November, December, January, February. So then you can see all those calculations there. But then what you are going to be submitting to us will be those actual monthly expenditures. I think that'll be helpful. Okay, so I can do that today. Let's see, I have a question. Okay, we're confused by dividing by 6 months. Okay, so does the contract run from October through June? So yes, it does. So for each of these, each of the current subcontracts that we have right now, everyone who's on the phone, you have a contract that's going to be ending June 30th, and then the date that we signed it was backdated to October 1st. So you could bill us for any expenses that are incurred for the project from October 1st until June 30th.
I guess the question is why they divided by 6. Because it's from October, that's more than 6 months, right? From October to June.
Oh, is it? October, November, December, January, February, March.
That's why they asked why they divided by 6 instead of 8.
Oh, I'm glad you guys are all smarter than me. Thank you. I get it. All right, so sometimes I get it and sometimes I don't. So that's why I need help. So I'm glad that I have a nice team here to help me make sense of when I'm not making sense. So make it divide by the number of months that from the beginning of the contract, the date that it was signed, until June 30th. Thank you. All right, that's helpful. Okay, so going back to this guy here. So this was the expenditure report form. So just remembering what that looks like. All right, so just to walk through quickly what are direct program expenses. So expenses would be anything that's caused directly by the personnel and object expenses in a program. It doesn't include management in general. Some people call that M&G. Okay, so in the personal services, and these are direct expenses, those would be salaries of staff allocated specifically for this program. So that's the % of their time that's being spent to this project. Payroll taxes and other benefits, again, those are also adjusted to the time that's spent on this project. So those could be employee health, retirement benefits, payroll taxes, workers' compensation insurance, and then employee benefits provided by the employer at the employer expense. And so documentation we would need for all of those fields. And I'll get to a table that walks us through that as well. And then program consultants. So if you have a specific consultant, I don't think that anybody had a consultant on their budgets, but if you did, that would be someone who's contracted to provide direct program services. So maybe like a consultant facilitator, something like that. All right, consumables, those are supplies. So the cost of program-related materials and other supplies that would be used by an agency for this project. That could be pens, that could be different supplies that you would need, flip chart paper for your meetings, sticky notes for your facilitated meetings, different supplies, the bags, bags that you're going to distribute for parents in the community to let them know about early learning programs, printing costs or shipping costs if you have that, postage, or that's postage and shipping if you need to mail anything. We have occupancy. I don't think that anybody has rent, but again, I'm just going through all the fields that are provided by DHS. So that would be any portion or percentage of the cost of property that's being used for the project. Again, that would be related to your staff time. Utilities, so if you have a ComEd bill, if you have a people's gas bill, again, that would be the portion for the project. Building maintenance is on there. I don't think that's not applicable to any of us. And then telephone cost. So that could be, if it's for your office phone, then that would be the portion of it that's used for the project. So if you're on at 50%, then it would be 50% of that phone time. Or if you have a cell phone that is purchased for the project, then it would be reimbursable for your cell phone bill. And then if you use it for your other work, again, if it's 50% of my time is spent doing one thing and then the other thing. Miscellaneous, so that's where staff travel comes in, so that would include public transportation. So just to put a note on there, so this doesn't include your commuting time, but if you're taking public transportation to go into the city, to go to the mayor's office, to talk about innovation zones, that would be reimbursable. If you are traveling by train down to Springfield for an innovation zone meeting, that's reimbursable through your project. Although we've absorbed a lot of those expenses for you so that you can focus on the work that's going on in your community because we don't really want you to have to take your precious dollars away to attend our larger all innovation zone meetings. So traditionally what we've done is we've just reimbursed you directly through our budget, so the budget that I have for the project. And then if you, any other work for travel related to your innovation zone work. Conferences and meetings, so some of our innovation zones will rent a meeting space. Again, no food would be included in this because this is a federal grant, so all of Race to the Top does not allow any food or drink to be purchased with these funds.
So what do we do about those who have submitted in their reimbursement form food?
We cannot, okay, so if you've already submitted for food, we have to ask you to submit again, and you would have to bill it to a different cost center within your organization because we cannot reimburse for food. So the feds won't allow it at all. So like, for our innovation zone meeting that we had last week, we use another grant inside of the organization to bill our food to them. Okay. All right, so M&G. So I don't remember who has M&G or not, but I just want to read through every line that's available on the budget. So M&G expenses are administrative expenses that are not part of any one program, but they're services to all programs that are run by an agency. So in a way, you could think about this as your supervisor's time. Examples are salaries of executive staff in a large agency, business office expenses, and other non-personnel expenses for those people, the cost of office space, telephones, et cetera, that people use. M&G must be allocated to programs in proportion to M&G received by each program, if that makes sense. And it's not to exceed 15%. So this is right from the DHS website, so if it's confusing, sometimes it's just legal language that's used, but we would just say that it's not to exceed 15%. All right, so going back on to this, the expenditure report. So again, that's to track your documentation. So there's a tab on each line of the budget reimbursement form. It matches up. You may not have a value for each line, but this is really to help you track your paperwork. It's also to help us track the paperwork as well. We put it all together in one nice file. We know that everything we need is there in one spot. Okay, here's what supporting documentation could look like. So for personnel services, okay, right here, so we have salaries. So that would be a type of a payroll summary report, ADP, check stubs, including vacation, holiday, or sick pay as a percentage of that's allocated to the program. Okay, so payroll taxes, same as above, and then the other benefits would be same as above. So this would be the way that you would document that based on the summary report that you have. If you have a contract, it would be a signed contract, invoices that are submitted by a vendor. For any supplies, so Office Max, for example, any receipt or invoice that you have from Office Max. Printing, that could be, if you have printing services, if you go to Kinko's or FedEx, printing that would come from there. Postage would be any receipt or invoice from the post office, UPS, that kind of thing. If you have rent or occupancy, that would be any receipts, any bills that you have or invoices, checks that are written, a copy of those checks. For utilities, that would be people's gas and then the part of that total that is allocated to the program. Bills, so we have the like a Sprint bill and then the actual expense for your telephone. So these are all the actual expenses. So staff travel, receipts, your travel report to document mileage, that's included in your expenditure report. And then that we have the IRS rate at 54 cents a mile. Conferences and meetings, same thing. Receipts, invoices, no food allowed. Any receipts for any of those others. And then our indirect is not to exceed 15%. Okay, let me see if I have a question here. I think we're good. Okay. So then we have our budget reimbursement form. So this is what you would submit. So you would do the budget reimbursement form, complete that with the actual expenditures, and then the expenditure report form with supporting documentation. How you would submit that, so you would submit all of those things, the budget form, expenditure report, and documentation to your implementation coach. You would copy me on that just so that I can see, just so that I know what's going on, and then the coach will help you process anything. So they'll go through and they'll double check to make sure that everything matches up so that your actual expenditures will match all the lines that are on the form. They'll call you back if there's any questions. They will process it internally with our finance department, and then that would then be approved. So a helpful tip would be to highlight on your documentation. Anything that you can do to make it easier will help us process it more quickly. So, you know, if you have a salary, again, to that, using my sister as the example, so if she's paid $1,400 for that pay period, half of that would be $700. I'm going to write 700 and I'm going to highlight that so then it's very easy for the coach to see that and to help process all that. So then everything is just matchy-matchy. And then this is what we have. So when will we receive payment? So if you submit it by the 30th of the month, we would work to have it to you by the payment would be by the 15th of the month. So the more we have everything accurate, the more quickly we can process everything here. If you have it by the 15th of the month, then we can have a payment to you by the 30th of the month. So this is, they cut the checks on the 30th and they cut checks on the 15th. Okay, so then I'll pause. It's a lot of information, I know that, and I want to give time for you to process that and then to ask me any questions. You can ask on the phone or you can ask through the chat box. Okay, so Casey, I cannot hear you. And I wonder if I need to unmute everybody. So if everyone is muted, I'm going to go.
Can't hear anything now. Type that in there. Can't hear anything now. Oh, now they can hear us? Yeah. Okay, okay.
Oh, I am unmuted. I unmuted myself. I muted myself, you guys. I'm such a, this webinar thing, wow. All right. I wasn't really singing, just so you know. Just having a sense of humor. Okay, so let's try to unmute everybody. So I want you all to be, I want everybody to be able to talk. Okay, so I want you all to be able to talk.
Okay,
all
can
right,
you hear
here
me?
we go again. Yay! Great. Let me answer Luis's question. So if I already submitted my billing for prior months, do I have to resubmit the expenditure form? So I would say a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. So what we want to do is make sure that we have everything correct. So you submitted a bunch of forms in, but maybe those forms didn't have all the documentation that was needed for different receipts and things like that. So what I'll do is I'll send you the, we'll send the expenditure report form, and then I'll have Jeremy, in your case, since this is Pilsen and Little Village, I'll have Jeremy call you, and then you can walk through any items that are missing and use it as a checklist. So think of the expenditure report form as a checklist to make sure that you have everything ready for documentation. If anything is missing, then Jeremy can let you know. And then working together, he can help you fill out that form so we can get all of your information processed quickly.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Leah, the expenditure form. Now we never received that form.
No, that's something that we.
So do I need to? Because I know there was some food costs was submitted in our last voucher, the vouchers that we did. So I'm taking. I'll have to revise those.
That's right.
To take that out, and then, but I need the expenditures. So do I need to fill out the expenditure form, and you know, to correlate with those with the vouchers that we've already previously submitted?
Yeah, we are going to have everybody do that. So some of the communities, and again, this is a little bit, I take responsibility for some of this, so we had gotten different communications from our finance team, and this is really just going to end up, doing it this way is going to be more thorough so that we won't get anything kicked back from our finance team asking us for more documentation. We really want to underscore that we want the expenditure reports will reflect actual expenses so that no one's just doing, taking your budget and dividing it by a certain amount. We want it to reflect actual expenses. And then this will help you do that. It'll help you do your own tracking as well. So it's actually a best practice for accounting.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't want to be onerous, but at the same time, if you ever get audited or we get audited, then we're all fine. You know, basically we've done everything correctly, and it minimizes any risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is Christina in Elgin.
Yep. Hi.
I already submitted October through February at the beginning of March. So do I have to redo all that too, or are you going to call me and walk me through everything?
Yep.
Since we never got
Yep.
it.
So that's the same thing. So we're going to have the coaches give you a call and walk through with you. So in your case, it'll be Francisca will be giving you a call.
Okay.
And if we want, I can be on that call as well. So for anybody, if it helps to have me there as well, I'm happy to make the time available because I think this is really important for you to get it right and for us to get it right.
Yeah, I didn't send it to her, so I may need you on the call. I sent my information to you.
That's right. Yeah, and then Francisca's been helping to manage the paperwork for us. So what we'll do is we'll get a call between you, me, and Francisca. We'll walk through the expenditure report form, see if there's anything missing. If there's nothing that's missing, then we'll be good, and then we'll be able to start to process everything.
Okay, so she already has put in the information into the expenditure form from what I already submitted. Or
no, we haven't entered that information yet, but that's the next step. So for people, so this is a question. So the question is, if I already submitted information, do I need to put it in an expenditure report form? The answer is yes, and that will help do that with you.
Okay, but you're going to send
before
that
the
out
end of this
today?
week.
You're going to send out that form today to everybody?
Yep, I will.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it at the end of the call.
Okay. And just, I have a payroll question regarding this for Casey. We don't have, she does direct deposit. Is the voucher of that deposit enough?
Yes.
Like for every pay period? You know, if I just, it's just a voucher. It says this is not a check, but I will just put DD on the form. But is the voucher enough instead of a payroll report?
Yes.
Okay.
And then does that include the breakout for taxes and things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
And oh, one more question. Sorry.
Sure. Go take your time.
For the, it wasn't very clear. The indirect costs. We need to show documentation for that if we have individual costs.
So the communication that I've received internally is that the contracts are small enough that documentation is not required. What I would do is for your own, I would consider maintaining an internal file of that, so that if they change their mind, which they shouldn't, but we've been given the indication that because the contracts are under $250,000, that you would not need to have documentation of the M&G, that we could just do a percentage amount.
Okay, so do you suggest not breaking it out and just putting the 15% of the total?
Yeah.
And so just on that indirect cost, just say it's 15% of this.
Yes.
Okay.
Leah. You know what? Is there an allocation for the the unemployment SUI, the state unemployment insurance that we pay? You know, half of the towards the employees' benefit. Is that a billable expense rolled into pay? You know, into other benefits or payroll taxes? Because the only line item I saw on personal services was employee health and retirement, and then taxes, worker compensation.
Yeah, so SSI is included in there as well. So that's on the presentation. And then that's right. This is the official, let's see, taxes, sum of Social Security and other taxes payable by employer under federal, state, or local law.
So Social Security, taxes. So that would fall under FICA?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, because FICA is normally Social Security and Medicare, but so you're saying include all three?
Yeah, so what we have here is on this form, so it's employee health and retirement, the FICA taxes, workers' comp, and so we have FICA calculated here at 7.6%. Workers' compensation we have at, what is that, 0.39? And then that adds that up as payroll taxes, so that's workers' comp plus payroll taxes. And then the other employee benefits, so if we had so it say I had a number here, like a $50, it would be this. And then this is actually supposed to be the taxes plus employee benefits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yep, got it.
Okay.
Hey, Leah, it's Christina
Uh-huh.
again.
Hi.
For the employee health and retirement, is that would that be like the portion that we pay for Casey?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be
That's
our
right.
own. It would be our own percent, like what we pay of that.
Yeah. So what we have here, for example, so it would be the amount that would be billable to the program. So if I'm paying, say, $150 for her health insurance, so 50% of her time is being spent on the project.
Mm-hmm.
So it would actually be, the calculation would be times the percentage. So if 100% of my time is being spent on the project, then I would get 100% of my time. But because it's 50% of the time, then it would be 50% of the health insurance can be billed to the program.
Okay, and is that per pay period or is that for the month?
Well, using this as an example, so using the detail sheet, so this is a pay period, so line 18 is one pay period for the month, line 19 would be the other pay period. Sometimes you have 3 pay periods in a month, depending on how many weeks you have. So it would be the pay period for that month.
Okay. So going forward, this would just be for March, and so it would be every pay period in March, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Is that good? Do we have any other questions? I want to take the time that you need. Okay, so I'm going to write up here, I'm going to do my next steps for you. So I'm going to write it down so that we have it written down. Let's see, title, content. So I'm going to update the reimbursement form to add October through June so that it'll do the calculations. And then I'm going to send the expenditure report to all. Okay, so each coach is going to reach out to you before Friday, okay, by tomorrow, so that you can have this wrapped up, you know, we'll say by tomorrow. Have this sort of to have our checklist complete, and we're going to aim for Friday, okay? So there might be work on your end that you might need to do, so it might not be able to be done by Friday, but we're going to have, at least we'll know what's on the checklist, what needs to be completed by Friday.
Hey, it's Christina. I have one more question.
Sure.
You said this was being recorded?
It is.
So when would this be available?
Oh, then it processes. So when I send out the expenditure report to everybody, I would also send out the recording.
Okay.
And this PowerPoint presentation?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to send the files that's going to include the PowerPoint and then all the reports.
I have one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
So upon everything being revised and correctly submitted, let's say by Monday, what's our timeline as to actually having payment processed and potentially receipt in hand for us?
Okay, so Monday is going to be the 8, 9, 10, that'll be the 11th. So if we have it submitted before the 15th of the month, the target would be the 30th of the month, so you would have it by the end of the month. And then if there's any, so then we'll have the coaches communicate with you if there's going to be any delay, but Ben can usually, our finance person can usually process those checks within those 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last thing I want to just point out is that we have, so the end of the year is going to be coming up sooner than we think, and there is, I will send an email out in terms of when we need to have last invoices submitted, but keep in mind that the end of the fiscal year is June 30th, and that you're going to want to make sure that you have all of your expenses. I believe that the date that they usually have would be July 8th, that you would want to have everything in for that fiscal year. So that's one point, so I'm going to put that up here as another one. So, you know, end of fiscal year 16 is June 30th, 2016. So you want to submit all, I'm just going to say July 8th, and I think that's being conservative, but that's okay. The other thing is that we also start a new fiscal year. Okay, July 1, 2016. And so whatever, you're going to want to set up a time with me, so set up a meeting with Leah and Coach by April 30th, so no later than April 30th, and then we will talk through and propose a new budget. 17, and remember it's half of the year, so it's a 6-month budget. Okay, so it would go through December 31, 2016, and then we would have that approved by, let's say, May, well, we'll aim for May 15th, but it's most likely to be May 30th, okay? Or sooner, because if we talk on the 30th, that'll give us 2 weeks. So it's giving us 2 to 4 weeks to get it processed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you closed the screen.
Oh, I did?
I don't see what you're typing.
Oh, no one can see my screen. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so dates to remember. So can you see this one? You can see it now?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I got another question. Leah, I was under the impression that we signed a contract, or we have an estimated budget, or we signed a budget for those 6 months in the next fiscal year.
That's correct.
That was approved. So are we meeting to like do actual, you know, comparisons, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just good to check in, you know, so check in on what you spent, what do you think you'll need for the next year. If it's the same amount that you projected, that's great. Then we'll just put that into the budget form. It'll be pretty simple. It's not to do anything new or to give new numbers, but it's just to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Gotcha. I just wanted to
so
make
no
sure.
Surprises. Yeah, no surprises. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was our next steps, that we'll update the reimbursement form to add October through June with the calculations included. I'll send the expenditure report out to everybody. Each coach will reach out to you by tomorrow to walk through the checklist, make sure we have everything complete, and then our goal would be to have that in process no later than Friday so that you can have everything ready for payment. Our goal would really to have it ready for processing on Monday, and then I will send you the recording and when I send the other files, so that will include the PowerPoint and then those reports. And I will do that before 2 p.m. today.
Awesome.
Great. And if you have any questions, do email me. Let me know. Don't be shy. If you want to call me, I'm here until 1:45 when I have another meeting. And but I'm open, and no question is dumb. Remember, and no question is wrong. Anything is on the table. So I'm happy to hear from you and to just help make this as clear for you and give you the support that you need to make this really easy. All right, so with that, I say thank you and enjoy the rest of your Monday. I hope that your day is more sunshiny than, you're sunshiny inside more than it is outside.
All right.